Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. Today I want to show you how you can take pre-purchase labels and turn them into something a little bit more unique. This idea is not new. I've seen it a number of different places. I know that Louisa Heinzel has done it. She's the first person that I saw do it. Crafty by Tony has also done it. So by no means is this an original idea to me, but I will show you how I change labels. I've got a number of different ones. I've got ones that came from Dollarama. They come in 3 different sizes, so I bought the ones that are 5/8 by 3/8. You can see what they are in centimeters. They're very little, like they're really, really little. And then they also have ones that are 1 inch by 3/4 of an inch. These are more like a standard label. And then they have a 3rd size, which I didn't buy, which are the width of one of these little pads and about a 1/3 of the height. So they'd probably be, they'd be less than an inch high. No, less than 2 inches high. I'm not sure exactly how big they are because I didn't buy those. And you can get just plain. You can use your stencils on them and put crackle paste. The crackle paste does not adhere though. It tends to flake off. But this is some of what you can get. Just stamping. You can use a pen and go around the outline, which is a pain on these little ones because they're so tiny. Just stamping. More crackle paste. And again, this stuff does tend to come off. And I tend to forget to use it. And because these come from Dollarama, I would recommend using glue to adhere them down when you do want to use them. As you can see, it's stuck to itself, but now it won't stick to anything else. So I have a bunch of labels that I have got from thrift stores. That's where I get the primary amount of my labels, except for the ones that I buy at Dollarama because they're really inexpensive. So I just pulled one out. Shouldn't be looking at. So these are quite narrow. You can see they're like maybe a 1/2 inch high and 3 inches wide. I don't think it says on there. They're really old. I mean, they're gray on the background. They're really old. I have a sheet of standard 8160. These are the ones that are 2 5/8 inches wide and 1 inch high. And then I have a box of very, very old ones that are actually for a photocopier. And these are tall. They're like 3 inches. Oh, they're 4.5 inches wide and 2 inches high. And these do not have the little gap in between. So part of what I will show you might not work on these. Let me just pull one out so we can play with it just to see. As you can see, they're sorry about that. They're pretty much like they're edge to edge and then no gap in between. But I'll see if it'll work. It probably won't. And then I'll pull one of these out as well. These are older. They don't look like this anymore. They don't have the little line at the top and bottom. Now another thing that you can do, and I've done this before, I have a video on how to do this, is you can use a digital kit and print a digital on it. So this is on the large one, the 4.5 by 2 and whatever it was. This is Rach and Bella's new kit, the Etude to Nature. It's her second kit in her 100-day junk journal collaboration. And then this is another of the vertical background papers, and this is printed on that standard Avery label. So I have inks, I have Distress ink. The first step, I'll use the Distress ink, and then I have StazOn and some VersaFine, different VersaFines for the stage after that. So let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do, I'm going to use just a makeup brush for this because I think it'll work the best. And I will use Tea Dye on one and Vintage Photo on the other, just to see the difference. And I'll do one of the background and then one of the plain papers, just so we can see what will work. And I'm not 100% sure this is going to actually give me, it'll give me a line at this edge in between the labels, but it might not give me a line at this edge here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a line in between the labels here. And on the little Dollarama ones, because there is a gap in between each of the labels, you get a line of grunge all around the labels, but I'm not 100% sure I'll get that on these. One of the reasons I'm using a brush is I get a bit better line on an edge than I do with the little sponge. With the sponge, I tend to get those round circles from the sponge on the edge, and with these makeup brushes, I don't. Like, sometimes I do. You can see it a little bit here. I've got a line, but I get that much more when I'm using the sponges. I'm switching to Walnut Stain for the next one. I did part of this one at the top bit with Walnut Stain just to see if it would work a little bit different. And I can see already that it, although it does give some demarcation in between, I think I'd have to like go and be very intentional about making sure that I like worked at each one of those little lines, and I'm just not, I don't know. I guess I can do that. I find it, the way that I craft is a little bit different when I'm filming than when I'm doing crafting on my own, because I'm so conscious of the amount of time that it takes to actually do a process. Like, I tend to be quite a slow crafter, and I think people leave when videos take too long, but to actually get the grunge in between each of these, you have to really work at it. So we might not get as much grunge as I might like. The other thing, like with these big ones, they go right to the edge of the paper, but my printer does not print edge to edge. Some printers do, like I know the Epsons, they print, you can print full cover, like full sheet, like all the way to the edge. A Brother printer, even with the inkjet, doesn't print edge to edge. Laser Brother definitely don't print edge to edge. So that's something to be aware of if you're doing some, a process like this, is whether or not your printer will actually print a full sheet. And interesting enough, I can see that the grunge is picking up on the edges of these. Like I can see a little demarcation line in between this. So that's what the first stage of the printed sheets look like. And then it would look very similar on these as well. So I think I'll not do the large sheets. Just know that it would look about the same. But I will try putting some on these little narrow ones. These are older. I just want to see what they would look like, whether this might work. At this point, you could add water to get that Distress Oxide to do its thing, or not. It's up to you. And then let's use one of these little ones. And one of the minuscule ones. I do forget to use these. I have them in my stash. As you can see, I made a whole bunch and then I never use them. I use other ones. Put some parchment paper down so I don't get ink all over my mat. And you can see already, like, look at how much more grunge you have around the edges of those labels. And the point of doing this like this, in case you're wondering why, is it makes the edges of these labels look already like they're vintage and grunged. And we all like our grunge. So that's the little wee ones. And you can leave them just like this. Pull them out, stick them on wherever you need, just like a tiny little label in the background, and be done. That's the easiest thing that you could do. All right, so that is your simplest thing. You could do it like that, then you're done. But why stop when you can put stamps on things? Now, one thing that you can do is if you've done something like this, like these are larger, these are the 3 by whatever they are, you could take a label stamp and stamp on this. I have various sizes. I have another one that's like oh, it's in my, I didn't pull that one out. In the Tim Holtz, in the field notes, he's got the little rectangular, so you could like come in here and just stamp a bunch, cut them out, and then they're pre-stuck. They wouldn't work for your grunging on this like size, but so then the other thing that you can do, so that's, you could use stamps like this and just like come in here and like line them up, boom, 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 and cut out a whole bunch. I've done that. It's really easy. I did a video on around Christmas time on how to change sticker paper more into washi tape than anything. This is my favorite stamp of all time. I got it on Temu. I don't shop on Temu anymore because they apparently don't ship anymore. They take your money and then you don't ever get anything. So I don't shop on Temu anymore. Or AliExpress. I do shop on Temu, which is basically AliExpress in disguise. So, fastest thing to do, I'm using my Spice Chai by StazOn. And I'm going to stamp the entire stamp. And if it doesn't get ink on all the bits, it doesn't matter. And then I'm leaving it on the little acrylic because it's too big for a mat. And then I'm going to try to line it up even with the edge, lay it down, and try to get as much of those numbers as I can. And there. So that goes almost all the way to the edge of that. So I think I'm just going to go on here with the second bit and stamp in this block. So again, with this, you can come in with one of these stickers, like, or that's not a sticker, that's a stamp. You could come in with a stamp and then just kind of go over it and go like however it would fit and do some stamping, cut it out, and you now have little labels that are stickers as well. Oh, yeah, that's super fail. Move that off to the side and take this one. And I'm going to use this one that I've never used before. This one I did get off Temu. And if it's somebody's stamp, I apologize. Like, I don't know stamps well enough. I know Tim Holtz stamps and that's about it. Like, beyond that, I don't know anybody's, what they look like. So if this is a copyrighted stamp from somebody else, I'm very sorry. Oh, I like that. Very much like that. It's pretty cool too. I like these bits where it looks like coffee, little coffee stains. That color might not go as well as that color. I think the Spice Chai goes better. Yeah, that one works better. It's got a little bit of the red from the acorn. You could stamp it off before you put more ink on there if you're smarter than I am. The other thing I like to do is add coffee splatters. I also brought out this one that looks like lace, because I think that might be really neat. That should fit on the small stamps. So this one already has what looks like coffee splatters, so I won't put it on there. But I also, let's use the chai, because those numbers are pretty light on this one bottom corner. Your fingers will get messy doing this. I do have wet wipes in the corner so that I can clean up. There we go. Yeah. I like that combination of grunge on that. Oh. This up here and this down here make me really happy. This one It might be fine when they're pulled apart and used as labels. Yeah, they might be fine if they're when they're used as labels. I'm going to use that one. My favorite ink to use for coffee splatters is the Spiced Chai, because it is a similar color to a coffee splatter, or a tea splatter because it's chai. So I guess that would make it chai tea. And when I'm doing this, I try not to think about it too much. I just try to stamp so that I get randomness on it, that I actually stamp on the where the labels are. And I would recommend, if you're for this part, for these numbers, your coffee splatters, that you use an ink like VersaFine or StazOn that will give you permanency. Alcohol, or I mean the distress inks, if you get them wet, they're gonna move all over the place. Which, I mean, you can, that if that's the look you're going for, by all means, but just be aware that it's not gonna stick on whatever you put it on. So you could consider that done and then just pull them off at a later point in time. The other thing that you can use at this point in time, you can leave it the way that it is, or on the field notes stamps, CMS 396, you get this two little labels. You get a little kind of a rectangular label, or you get the one with the little notched corners. I really like the one with the little notched corners. You can come in, this always happens when I stamp. I wind up with stamps like an ink swimming all over my desk. And then I'm like, I can't find my desk. But that's only because I have too many stamps on it. Not for lack of desk space. I would use a permanent ink. I'm going to, excuse my arm, use the Ranger Archival ink in black for this. I have tried twice now to get StazOn in the jet black. Once it broke and they wouldn't ship it, and the second time it got lost. So you can just stamp on top of these like so within your sticker. These are a nice big size, so if you do this, you kind of lose the effect of all that. I wouldn't grunge up the edges of the stamps in this process necessarily. You could do it mostly for the grunge factor on the label itself. Now, be aware when you do that where your labels end, so that you don't, like if I stamp like this, now I've only got a part of a label here and a part of a label on the other side when you pull it off the sticker background. So if you do it that way, be aware of that. You can also, it will fit if you go that way. And then I think, no, you can't. You can't get two above one another. But then you've got a strip along here that you could use as washi tape. You do have a strip along here, but like on something like this is really, really super dark. I don't know. Something like that on there, so that it's not just a blob of brown. So those are, that's an option of what you could do with those. And then for the little ones, empty little one, because, you know, why not? Let's put our stamps away before we lose them, because that's real. The struggle is real. So on something like this, you can just do an all over stamp like we did with the other ones. You could, for example, you can tell that there are a whole bunch in here that I have never used because they're still adhered. You could use part of it, like you could take that one and stamp like randomly like this, so that you get parts of each one of those in different places. You could take one like this here and intentionally try to line it up so that you get most of the numbers in one of the stamps, like so. So again, lots of different options for how you could do these. You could take something like this, which is, I think, what I will do. I think I do have a larger acrylic blob. You could take an all-over stamp like this one, which has text on it. And again, I like to use something like the chai because it will blend into the background more. You could use black ink, you could use blue ink, you can use gray ink, you could use whatever color you want. You can go up and down, you could go side to side, you can go up and down on part of it. You can go side to side on part of it. You can go let's use the other one just because we can. You can go like different directions. There's no right or wrong. This is kind of background. Let's go that way. Yeah, like that. And then from here, what you could do is, if I had that curio stamp of Tim Holtz, I think that would be really cool, but I don't. I haven't even seen it on Amazon. I suppose I could try to find it on a place like Simon Says Stamp, but currently I don't think buying anything from the US is going to work for me, just because of tariffs and stuff like that. I will wait for 4 years. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a darker ink. I'm going to leave these as is on this little thing, and I'm going to use black archival ink. Stamp on top of it. Ink on top of it. Not stamping it. I will. And again, you can go all over your fingers like so. And because these little ones are so little, I don't think it makes that much difference where the numbers and letters and stuff goes. And then when you pull that apart, like this one, for example, you're going to have a stamp with a 12 almost right smack in the middle. That one you've got a stamp with a 50. That one you have a little stamp that says date. That one says 5. That one's got like part of a 5 on it. That one's got the number on it. So if you're not, like, don't think about it. Just put them on there and let them fall as they fall. I'm going to use that on the bigger one so I can try to let them fall as they fall. I'm going to try to get, yeah. Oh, apparently one of my stamps fell off. Don't tell anybody. And then that. So that would give you something a bit like that. I do need something down in that corner. So that would be that. And now let's put something on this side. Let's use this other one, which also has numbers and stuff on it. my fingers are so dirty. I'm sorry if dirty fingers offend you. And that number does not want to stay on there. It's one of the reasons my fingers are so dirty. I'm gonna clean off my desk and my fingers, and I'll come back and show you what we created. Baby wipes for the win, mostly. Still a little bit of ink. Soap and water will probably take the rest of that off. So these are what they would look like, your labels. If you don't do anything on them, just grunge them. A little bit of definition between each of the labels. You can use those just as they are. Play with them as you put them on. Then you could stamp on top of them and then use a label stamp like the one in the Field Note stamp from Tim Holtz. Create little labels, cut around the outside. You've got a stickered label. I have 112 million of those. I tend to make lots, and then I do use them. I use them lots. These are just grunged up. These are on a printed background with some stamping on top. That gives you an idea of how you can get a bit of depth to what would be a label. Again, you could come in with that Field Note stamp. It will fit just barely in here. It's a really tight squeeze, but it will fit. And but you can only get one per label, so you've lost a bunch. You could use these as labels as they are, like this, or you could use that as a bit of washi tape if you wanted to as well. It's another option for how to use these and these. And then these are the little ones from Dollarama. These are kind of my favorite because they are pre-sized. You get a bit of grunge around the outside, and you get a bunch of interest on them. These are really tiny, but they're fun to put on something like a tag or any of that kind of thing. You can go in and individually stamp each one of these with a stamp and be very intentional about how you put the numbers or words or whatever it is that you're putting on there, but that takes a long time. So just be prepared if you want to do it that way. Definitely you can, but it will take longer. One of the things about doing this way is it's almost like a masterboard where you're putting a whole bunch of stuff on top, but you don't know what it's going to look like when you go to use it. And I always think that's a lot of fun. Like, I love masterboards for exactly that reason. So, you know, like here you've got like part of a word, but it would still give you a bunch of interest if you put that as a stamp on a background. And I think other brands have these individual little stamps where they've got a gap in between the stamps. You could look on Amazon for them. I know the Avery labels tend to be like the one that I showed you that I grunged up, where like this one, where they sit, because they have 30 of them on a page, there isn't a gap between each one of the labels, so you won't get the grunge in between the labels unless you really go in and either like peel it back a little maybe and grunge around, but then you've lost some of the gumming of the label. But you could do it that way. One of the things about it is you get that nice little grunge around, like an outline around it as you go in. And I really like that. And until next time, if I forgot, I want to say again, thank you to all the new subscribers for the wonderful comments, for the likes and subscribes. It just, for a little channel like me that's just starting out, it's just, it just warms my heart. That's all I can say. And until next time, have a lovely crafty day. Bye.